Good afternoon, Anupam. Can I start? Hello.
Yes, sir. Please start.
Okay, fine. Uh, Good afternoon to all the participants and members who and other seniors who are present. This is Vishwesha. I'll be continuing my next sessions on mobile security, focusing on the application perspective, and primarily since there are only two predominant model there in terms of operating systems, so Android and iOS. So I'll try to give some broader perspective. It will not be technically too deep, so that you can have a first level of concern addressed. Right. Coming to back in continuity with my previous session, we categorize the mobile phone in terms of two category. One is the feature phone. By the way, I hope my audio is enabled. I am clear to my participant. If not, please post in the chat box. Okay, if there is an issue. Predominantly, mobile phones are categorized in two ways. One is the called feature phone, and another was is the smartphone. So the feature phones have a proprietary operating systems or firmware we call it. So there is no specific operating systems, and these are basically low end or the first generation phone. Second category phone is a hardware like computer, where you can load the operating system, either Apple iOS or Android, but it comes preloaded with the manufacturing facility. So my focus of today is that's why Android and iOS. Uh, in continuation with some of the queries, this slides is to handle the queries that has yesterday. Is that what happen if my phone is lost? Okay, in a place, and I do have a lot of confidential or private data, and then suddenly want to take care of those data so that it doesn't go into wrong hand. And in this scenario, private photographs and videos are very important and crucial. So to save at this moment in the very early stage, what to do? So that in that scenario, this screenshot says that for Google or iCloud, both of them, Apple or Android phone, you have a cloud-based services. So you can log in with that account. For example, I have logged in with my account. I can see my devices where Android is installed. And on the left side, there are three informations. One is play sound, secure device, and erase device, right? So if I do, I'm not within an office, if I'm not finding it, then I can use the play sound. If I want to ensure that all of my data should be deleted, then I can use the last option called the erase device, and secure device is the in-between changing operation. So log into my cloud account, my phone is exactly located. So if I zoom it, this particular area where my office is, where I am currently in sector 5 CDAC, then this is exactly that particular picture. You can see that it is currently getting located at my office CDAC, right? So this is one of the tools that you can use both for Android and iPhone devices. Now, coming back to the main topics of today, in terms that priorly, its slide is explicit itself, that when we had a era of laptop and desktop only, and then criminals were targeting those devices. Now, since predominantly today's scenario, we are having smartphone and tablets, and so we criminals are now targeting them because that's a more quantity in larger, right? Okay, and in that scenarios you always have a queries that what is more safe. So that's one perspective. And in that scenario, the background is that people are using mobile phone for banking, connecting to social media, and making online purchases. So since people are doing it, cyber criminals are aiming their viruses and malware attacks on all these devices. That's why the iOS and Android operating system become tempting target for cyber thieves eager to access most personal information. There are many threats and attacks against mobile devices. One of them is loss, theft, sensitive information leakage, location privacy compromise. And many ways I have a very limited access control of those information. So I cannot protect information leakages, and also privacy I cannot do. Like for example, if I browse simply internet, then my location information is getting detected by some in the background. But if I do use use a VPN and connect to a US or other site over VPN, then all of my browsing history cannot be detected through that currently by your service provider, right? So this way you can fudge your identity or you can protect your privacy. Both of us, all of us are having broadband at home. So whatever I'm browsing, that history is basically in the hand of those data connectivity provider. So to create privacy and protection, one of the recommendation is to use VPN so that your browsing histories and habits and many other things are not getting logged or disclosed. So if safety is your concern of a mobile device which is virus free, which is malware free, if that is basically the question, there is no simple answer, right? To because there is a left and right, both many other choices are parallelly there, right? So if you want to have a exact answer, Boolean answer, it's not there. This in details to know the threats perspective while all of us are using mobile phone. This perspective gives that people store most of their personal information on them. So like emails, calendar, contacts, picture, etc. One of the threat perception is that today's mobile phone does have a synchronization concept, like using the early example of having a iCloud account and Google account. I can have a storage facility at the iCloud or a Google. So if I use phone synchronization, there's all such informations of mails, contacts, photographs will automatically getting stored in the background cloud storage. Now, if somehow my Google password is leaked or my iPhone password is leaked, okay, then somebody else can access those informations, right? Or because it is available, some other people can continuously keep on targeting getting those information, right? So this is one of the threats if you use synchronization or a cloud drive concept. People use mobile phone within the organization, so there is a lot of sensitive data which is part and parcel of the mobile phone because of being an employee. So this is also a threat. A mobile phone can easily get lost and stolen, so that's another threat. Now, at the same time, I use mobile phone for SMSs, like OTPs and many other informations are getting exchanged. So a credential, a wrong software installed in my mobile phone can access those SMS and pass on at the back end. I use this same thing for in-application purchase using credit card and all. So those information can get leaked the same way. Many cases, phones are having a smart card, contactless smart card functionality, like your contactless ATM card uh, inbuilt into the mobile phone. So, and which is used for payment and other purposes. So those information can also be leaked. So, so these are some of these threats. Now, in a broader way, uh, these are different statistics which says that uh, out of 20 mobiles were stolen, right? So you may be one of those 20. The statistics is based on 2010, but it will vary a little bit, but this threat still there, right? Uh, there is an increase in 155% in terms of mobile malware. There is a increase in mobile spam. Then Google Android, there is a 77% malware growth. Then hotspot, there is a tremendous increase, and because many of these hotspots provide free short-term browsing facility, so people are tempted in using it. So there is a high chance of man in the middle attack if you use those public hotspot, right? So, and moreover, there is a huge growth in Android softwares or apps. So, and that huge growth means when the volume increases, right? So it is very difficult to maintain security for each and every such softwares I'm installing. So eventually, many of them will be prone to malicious activities, and probably I myself can be compromised because of that, right? So that's basically, this particular portion is basically a huge threat for all of us using unknown, untrusted software from multiple places, right? This statistics is generated by this Evans Data Survey Mobile Development Report 2012. Now, but the fact is that mobiles are very dear to us and we use it so all such five purposes, right? Okay. Uh, and there are behavioral pattern, like my mobile phone I share with my families. So my all of my family members may not be equally alert in terms of security and other practices. So any mistakes done by them, I'm also going to equally suffer it, right? Similarly, within the organizations, these devices are also shared. So if one of them is not much be cautious about those security perspective, because of which the tablet or that particular devices may get infected. So, and then another problem is that in our in our professional life, probably I use a better sanitized computer with better habit for my organizational or security perspective, but I use a different computer or a set for my personal free time, right? So there are a distinction of devices. But however, for in case of mobile, I use the same thing for very critical sensitive data. I use the same mobile phone for my leisure time, the same way, right? So that's creates another kind of a security threat. Now, mobile phone comes from different companies, different perspective, and different manufacturers, and it is also a huge responsibility by the manufacturer to enforce the security certifications and other perspective. So during the build time, if they don't deploy those perspective or they don't use it, you are compromised. One of the very lucid example is that for Android phone user, you might be knowing that there are some model of Android phone which are having root privilege or jailbroken, or some other phone which doesn't allow it, right? Now, the jailbroken or a root privilege is like Linux or a Windows admin kind of concept, where you have the highest privilege of accessing data and many things, right? So other than a normal user. Now, if a mobile phone comes with a root privilege, then the malwares and other softwares which were required to have a user level notification and a permission before getting installed, right? Those were never asked, right? So if you are using or trying to install a software, no intimation will come in those case of devices. So that's another threat. And the mobile phones are continuously with me, so I use it at many places, at many free cafe, airport, and many places using Wi-Fi and all. So the threat from that particular area or those particular person involved with that services all is also affecting me. Uh, so these are some of this thing, and many other thing is that security and user experience are opposite in nature. If you allow more convenience, if you impose more security, it will implement more discomfort, right? Okay, so that's why to give better user experience, or a single touch, or a single event, or a lot of less kind of notifications, mobiles are applications are designed right that way. So that's once again and that's basically the focus. User experience is a more focus, easiness and user experience. So to handle that, you need to compromise security and do all this thing in the background. So that's one of the complexity in terms of users criteria. Now, this is one of the latest report by one of the reputed antivirus company based on their study, and they categorize there are top 7 mobile threats, right? And these threats are categorized as the data leakage, which apparently briefed right now. Okay, then network spoofing. And it can only happens use of Wi-Fi networks of either wrongly created enterprise or some other places like coffee shop, libraries, and airports, right? Or free airport kind of thing. So the basic precaution is to have less uses of this, and actually cyber criminals provide this set of free access to onboard you and to compromise your system. Then similarly, more phishing attacks, and there is a another attacks like phishing email, which keeps on tempting to move or migrate or to click to a particular or redirect to a particular places so that they can install different thing, right? So that was very well known phishing attack. Similarly on mobile phone, these attacks comes from different kind of SMSs, and this called smishing. So they try to send you SMSs tempting you to go, tempting you to click, tempting you to divulge certain information, right? So these are happening with respect to mobile. Then this unsecured, there are certain Wi-Fi's which are installed in an unsecured manner. So that becomes a threat. While developing softwares also to provide security, certain cryptographic algorithm or certain reputed algorithm need to be used to provide end-to-end security, so that data which is going to internet, data coming to you, cannot be interpreted or cannot be decoded by man in the middle. So, but as a developer, the if mobile application has to be developed very quickly because of the market demand. So many times those less secured encryptions are used because that gives you less time in development. So if somebody uses that, you become vulnerable. Then the same way, there is another category called spyware. It's like being a parent, you always is in need to know where your daughter's or son is, right? So you want to kind of a monitor. Now the same thing applies for husband, wife, or the organizational head or somebody else, right? So in this process, there are certain spyware softwares are getting installed, or we call it a version of malware. And so their job is to upload those information at the back end, right? So people that becomes a quite huge threat, and these softwares are written such a way that apparently they should not create some kind of an alerts to end user so that you can get alerted. But if you monitored your data traffic by some mechanism, you'll be able to know that there are a huge set of information is continuously getting collected from your mobile phone and getting uploaded to the backend, right? So this is called a spyware kind of a thing. And in many cases, like say for example, if I used a SBI online software in my mobile phone, right? If I don't use it for a long, right, when I try to use it, should the password be asked again or not, right? If the software is not written in such a way then you may not require the password. That means your session handling by the software developer has not been done. So if this is the case, this extra malware or other software can make use of many critical information getting out. So this is one of the another bottleneck. So these are some of the technically collected threats that this company has came out. Now, if you want to know, because what we do, we simply install a software, right? But if you see the total ecosystem is like this. There is a set of developer, there is a set of tester, through which they create the mobile apps. Then there is a website for hosting it. So these mobile apps are then hosted at website. So there are then there is the internet, and at the leftmost side, there is my devices. So using internet, either Wi-Fi or a data, I access those application from the website. And if I want to similarly want to access my application of my organization, then through secured gateway, there is a corporate hosting where from I get my data. So that is basically your end-to-end picture. Now, so this gives you your background. Now coming back to all the concern I said before, right? Okay, so essentially there are in your mobile phone, there are certain critical component like camera, your critical component like you have a data plan for doing something else, say for browsing email, but you are not using it much, but your all data get consumed. So meaning it, other installed software is also continuously at the background is doing data exchange. So that's why your total data gets reduced, and you are not in getting your own required data when you require it, right? So data access is one of them. Then there is a your where you are currently, the is your privacy information. You call it a GPS. You have a camera. So camera you are not using, then somebody else remotely should not use it. So the camera is one such asset. Then similarly, that through Bluetooth, some hacking could take place. So Bluetooth resource is also one resource, a resource which should be protected. Your microphone should not be used by somebody to know your ambience information, right? So these are all assets. So now every applications, if they require something, they need to ask permission from you at the time of installation. So bluntly, we always give it, like for example, using Zomato or Uber or Ola, I need to give permission to the software to access my GPS location. So similarly, all the softwares I'm doing, I do it, but after some time I forget, and after sometimes also I don't know that which software is using which permissions. Like for example, Zomato should not require your data access or location all throughout the day. If you want to order only food once in a while, then only Zomato should access your GPS and should access the data, right? So there is no requirement of that. But incidentally or surprisingly, if you have time and inspect that who is doing what, then you may get surprised, right? Then how do you do it? So you can do it like go to settings, then permissions, and then permissions, all such resources are listed. If you select camera, you will find that it is being used by 22 softwares out of 35, right? And but incidentally, but as per the design, these 22 applications which are using it have a separate on-off switch there, right? So for example, for Zomato, you can switch off the location service, you can switch off the data service, because if you don't switch off the Zomato service, once Zomato is installed, what they do, they continuously transmitting your current location to the back end, so that next time you want to order something, they can use certain promotions and certain other ad and also and so forth, right? but you require it based on your requirement. So your data should be preserved. So you can selectively switch off what you feel should be justified, and making all such choices in terms of camera, microphone, data, Bluetooth, GPS by yourself. So you should inspect and do accordingly, or at least have an assessment who is doing what. Now, then in terms of mobile softwares or access, there are different controls which are imposed. Uh, Probably in early days it was not there, so anybody got your handset can use it and operate it. But gradually we started with a pin, then a pattern lock, then a fingerprint, then a face recognition. So this kind of a security has started. And one of the say, for example, if you don't lock your mobile phone, what could also happen is that you left your mobile phone on your desk, your colleague may just pick it up and probably get your confidential photographs or many other things and shared to his mobile or forward to somewhere else, right? So access control is one of such very important, access control and authorization. Now, to handle that, there are many mechanisms like password, biometric, pattern lock, smart card, etc. But the point I said in the very beginning is that whatever security you use, it comes with a cost, right? Okay. So if the security is too strong, it likely to implement costly, and implementation might be costly, or it must be very difficult for using also, right? So this table talks about that particular aspect only. Now, like computer, there is a difference in mobile phone. Like in computer, gradually we have come up to a stage where a different level of user concept is there. If you are using a very early stage Windows operating system or a DOS operating system, there is no user level concept. So everybody who get an access to the computer is equal. But gradually we do have a concept called administrator in the case of Windows. We do have a concept called root in the case of Linux, right? Incidentally, for mobile phone, we don't have this level of differences, right? But now there is a time. So now there is a time gradually, if we introduce this same concept into the Android or iPhone, this would have been much better. Now in terms of Android, it is there in terms of root privilege, but incidentally that is locked, so by the manufacturer you don't get access. So you don't have that your own flexibility the way you do have it for Windows admin and Linux root by yourself, right? So this is basically the time for it. Now, there is a another perspective is that suppose I put up a device for a free Wi-Fi connectivity, right? Now, the moment if I use a particular software, then all the mobile phones or all the other devices which comes to my vicinity, I can record their Wi-Fi address. Similarly, if I use a Bluetooth also, I can record all the Bluetooth address. So by this process, what is getting compromised is basically your details, because your device or you as an individual known through the devices. So the IP address, Bluetooth address, all of those addresses are unique to your device. That means to you, mapped to you. So if these informations are collected, I may know whether you have come to this place or not, right? Or whether you are here at that point of time or not. So that means your location or privacy information getting recorded by somebody, or so unnecessarily. So to handle that, you need to know this and you need to be aware of this, right? So how do you know? So how do you get to know those unique information? This information you can you can visit about phone, then through about phone hardware informations, and then you get to know all such details, right? Like model number, uptime, Wi-Fi address, and Bluetooth address, right? So this becomes now this becomes anonymous with you, right? So this indirectly gives you privacy, your privacy, loses your privacy. So to handle that, there has to be a strong regulation within the organizations, and also the government level. Then, since you may be aware of, if you are having little bit of computer background, you may be knowing that when you connect to internet, you get an IP address, right? Now, in your computer, you do have a LAN Ethernet card. Now, LAN card is physically a item installed in your computer, and it has a unique MAC address. So having that MAC address, meaning it, anything that is done on the internet, and if somehow it can be proved that the MAC address is basically your computer address, so legally you are accountable for all those wrongdoings, right? Okay. Or the other way, using the MAC address, you can be traced, or your privacy can be compromised, or your presence can be detected. So to handle that scenario, there is a concept. So the mobile phone also having that MAC address because it uses or connect to the Wi-Fi. Now, so that means if I know which MAC address are currently connected, I may to know that Bishwajit Shah is now currently on the network. Now, because my MAC address is detected. Now, to handle that, what you need to do is that the device should change the MAC address every now and then. So if devices does change the MAC address now and then Bishwajit Shah by the MAC address can never be mapped together. So this is one of the requirement. That's why, and the same, and also there has to be a proxy-based communications to so that your these browsing histories and alls cannot be uh, recorded.
Sir, sorry to disturb you in between. Can
Hmm.
we have, sir, a lunch break and we'll come back shortly after, then we'll continue this slide.
I may take another 10 minutes to finish it off. So my request is to allow me 10 minutes and then finish it off. If the
Okay,
audience,
okay, okay, sir. Okay, sir. No
huh?
problem. Oh,
Okay.
no problem, sir. We'll make it.
These slides I'm not elaborating since I think slide may be shared. So these are very detailed information for your own reading. Then coming back to the basic how the software on the Android protect yourself, right? Because then you can have a little bit of trust on it, right? So being a provider or an operating system like Microsoft, Google has to also take care of the security to give confidence. So, and what they need to do, so they need to protect your user data, protect system resources, hardware and software, and and there may be a scenario of wrong softwares, but if that wrong software cannot access a good software or interact with the other software installed, then you provided an isolations, like for example, infected people and the healthy people, if there is a disconnection, then healthy people not likely to get infected. So the same thing applies here in terms of application isolation. And the foundation of that, how it is implemented is that it implemented through set of permissions requirement, and mandatorily they use a concept called sandboxing. Sandboxing is basically is a term used for isolations. Then secure inter-process communication. In spite of creating isolation, there will be a requirement of sharing certain informations, right? So that's why, say for example, I might install a Paytm software, but the moment OTP comes to SMS, I need to read it. So if the Paytm software is absolutely 100% in isolation, then it may not be able to, the software internally may not be able to know the OTP which has come, and every time I need to go to SMS, then read the OTP, then type in. But nowadays, many such things are done automatically. So there is requirement of inter-process communication. So the only challenge is that it has to be made secure, right? So, and also it's not only development of the software, distribution of the software has to be also through secure mechanism. So that's why a Play Store concept is there. So these are the initiative which is taken to understand the Android a little more differently. Is that Android software essentially has a Linux bottom line layer called Linux kernel, and on top of it there is a Android runtime or some Java virtual machine concept called, but here it is called Dalvik virtual machine, DVM. It's not JVM. And then you have a application framework, which are a component based on which a software application software are developed, like home, contacts, phone, browser, or means any third-party software. So the top layer. So these are basically in the things. Right side determines the role of the software stack, and this picture on the right side gives you your isolations. Like if you have a phone app, it runs on a separate DVM, Dalvik virtual machine, and you see a clear-cut boundary. That means it's under this own area. Similarly, if you have a browser software, it runs in a separate ways. You have a app, any app, it runs also separately, but they have a communications link through system processes and all, right? So this is how a software in run in a Android environment. Now this slide talks about a relative comparison of Apple versus iOS. So or this is a self-explanatory slide, so hope people reading it will get to know the perspective by themselves, right? Now this is basically once again talks about the specific details which getting out and which I should be concerned about. So this talks about that particular thing, like your GPS location, IMEI number, or in case of other category of devices like CDM, it is EID number, etc. Now, coming back to once again the Android software development process, then what is the, I simply download a Swiggy app, but what is the end-to-end scenario? The end-to-end scenario is that a developer of Swiggy app develop it, right? Then while developing it, he and first of all, if he developing an Android app and want to upload it, he has to create a Google Gmail account. Further to it, if he developer and wants to distribute a software, he should create another account, application Play Store account, and that account creation requires a little payment. Why the payment is that through the payment process, my identification or legal accountability or legal identification getting completed. So in future, if there is any identified malpractices done, my whereabouts or my traceability can be ensured. So there is a payment cycle. Now, once those are done and I have developed a software, I need to sign on with my own key. So that's required. And then Google, I require another key which is used by Google for application signing. Then once this is done, then it is available to the web store and user can download it from the app store. That's basically a pictorial diagram. The same thing is actually shown in the Google Android portal, what you need to do, right? Now, this is though it's a well thought of processes, but there is a little loophole, and there is a less kind of a review process. Like for example, I can in a Google, anybody can open the account with very less identity information, but the same is not valid for Apple iOS thing. If CDAC wants to enroll for an Apple iOS development, then CDAC as an organizational entity with their all details need to submit it. Then a internal search operations is done based on search report. If everything is correct, then only my account is created. So there's a lot more scrutiny That's number one. Number two is that once I upload the software even on iPhone, the software goes through a rigorous review process of my access privilege. Like for example, if there is a software which is uploaded in Apple Store, then data safety and security perspective is audited over a period of time. So once I upload to the Apple Store, it may take 7 days to 15 days time, and intermittently all the reports will be coming, and you need to correct it one after another. If you don't correct it, they still not approve your software, and then it will not be available to iTunes Store. So that's basically the most rigorous. They do check about data safety, security, performance, business model, applications UI, and also the privacy policy. Like I say, certain software, now I need to specify the age profile of that software, whether it will be used by student community also or not. If I define student community, then those perspective will be searched into the software. If it violates to any of the child abuse or any other child related other contradictions, then my software will be disallowed to be part of the store, right? So this is the mechanism of getting approval in terms of, so since it's more rigorous, more stringent, so a simple conclusion could be that Apple iPhones still more secure because it is used in a limited scale, because used in more proprietary manufacturing under single brand of Apple, right? So multi-brand failure is not there, right? So that's somehow give a relative comparison between those two perspectives. With this, I thank you all. Hope since it's the last time, I'll be having only few questions. But however, all questions can be also sent over me separately also to save your lunch time. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving insight regarding iOS